You're listening to the Better for America podcast, presented by Amac, the Association of Mature American Citizens.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber, and this is your Amac podcast, Better for America. Today we have a real treat, a conservative whose name is known coast to coast, putting fear of accountability in some hearts and genuine hope, promise, and a can-do attitude in many others. But before I introduce our guest, let me note that our sponsor today is Amac Senior Resources Network. Now, if you're searching for the right Medicare plan and access to A-rated insurance, just know that Amac delivers you what you need when you need it, with licensed providers that are ready to answer every one of your questions. Trusted answers do matter, and that is why they offer personalized Medicare guidance. They are ready, reliable, and wrapped around your needs. Call 800-334-9330. That's 800-334-9330 for questions about your Medicare coverage. Let me introduce our guest today. He is a decorated military veteran, having spent time in Iraq and Afghanistan, not to mention Italy, South Korea, and in rough spots across the Middle East. He retired as lieutenant colonel, notably with a Bronze Star and 3 meritorious medals and other military decorations. While he holds 2 master's degrees, he most notably served in the U.S. Congress and is a vocal defender of truth, accountability, the Constitution, military readiness, and freedom that most Americans and all AMAC members truly value. In 2020, he won the chairmanship of the Texas Republican Party, and today he is running for governor of Texas. Please welcome someone with his hand on America's pulse, who believes in America, who puts his life on the line for this great country, America's Congressman, Colonel Allen West. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Colonel.
It's incredible. Thank you for that introduction. And it's just a great honor to be with you all and to continue to fight and stand up for the legacy of your incredible great dad, Dan Weber, and what he did in establishing AMAC. And I've been just so humbled to have been a spokesperson for you all.
Well, we appreciate that. And thank you so much. I'm so happy you had the opportunity to meet my father. And that is how I first met you at our delegate conference a handful of years back. So thank you for all you've done for us. You really, truly have a depth of experience across so much of what it means, I think, to really make America great. The sacrifice of those in uniform, the kinds of personal risk that are involved in, seeking and really winning political office. You have the kind of personal strength that it takes to really persevere when those around you are critics or try to weaken you or get you to give up. I have so many questions for you today, but let me start with this one. You have become such a great thought leader, well beyond the titles that you have held in the military, both in Congress and the Republican Party. So to many, you're viewed as a kind of a litmus test, right, for truth and trust. And you're willing to say what others will not and ask uncomfortable questions at times that I think get people to really think harder. And I think we're living in a world that seems intent on trying to get us think less and really making us sort of lazy, which allows us to underestimate the threats that we're facing. So could you take a moment and perhaps offer us a few thoughts on the biggest threats that you think we face today, from China and terrorism to socialism, right? We see overspending. Sure. What do you think would count as one of the bigger threats that we face today as Americans?
Well, that is an incredible question, and you're humbling me so very much with some of those words you just said. Let's look at it from internal and external threats. I think the internal threat that we have to look at is the constitutional crisis in which we find ourselves here in the United States of America. You know, living down here in Texas, where we share a 1,254-mile border with a foreign nation. Who would have ever thought that we would have a president of the United States of America that would abdicate the constitutional duty and responsibility that they have by way of the United States Constitution, our rule of law, to protect our sovereignty, to the point where now we know, and you have seen, we've got airplanes landing all over the United States of America of illegal immigrants, illegal immigrant minors. And so we have a government that is participating in a human trafficking crisis. We have a drug trafficking crisis, a sex trafficking crisis, and also a public health crisis. Americans are being told that they don't have freedom, according to this Joe Biden, but yet people that are coming across the border illegally, they don't have to get a shot in the arm. So we see our medical freedom being challenged. When you have parents that are going out and standing up and saying, we don't want to see our children indoctrinated, we want to see our children educated, and the Department of Justice is declaring them to be domestic terrorists and willing to use the power of the Federal Bureau of Investigation against them, that reminds me of the old East German Stasi state. So when I think about the internal crisis and the internal threats that we have, without a doubt, it's the undermining of our constitutional republic, our representative democracy, and a philosophy of governance, this progressive socialism, this cultural Marxism, and this communism that is antithetical to who we are as a free people here in the United States of America. Now, when you talk about our external threat, without a doubt, our number one geopolitical foe is China. When you look at what they did in unleashing the Wuhan virus against the United States of America, all you have to do is read their One Belt, One Road strategy, and that tells you exactly that they're not just focused on a regional hegemonic dominance there in the Pacific Rim. They're looking at global dominance. And for whatever reason, we have an administration that is compromised, and just a microcosm of the failure of the foreign policy of this administration that benefits China is what happened in Afghanistan. I spent 2.5 years in Afghanistan, and for us to put the exact same people back in charge 20 years after 9/11, the people that we had taken off the battlefield and equipped them with $85 billion of military equipment, that's unconscionable to me. And who is benefiting from that? It is China, because now China is going in and occupying Bagram Air Base. And China now has all of the access to the raw materials and resources that you have there in Afghanistan, and namely, that is lithium and batteries. Think about all the batteries that use lithium, electric vehicles, and things of this nature, which is what the left is saying we have to do in moving towards a Green New Deal. But yet we're going to be subservient to China for electric vehicles and things of this nature. So those are the two internal and external threats that I see.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you for pointing that out, because those are issues we need to really be thinking about and working to address. To address. I do want to come back to the state level here for a moment. As you seek higher office, can you help AMAC members and understand what do you see as some of the biggest issues facing Texas? And certainly then I do want to talk a little bit about the state's rights on parental rights, individual rights. I do want to talk about what we're seeing in critical race theory, but talk to me a little bit about Texas, please, and then we'll shift to critical race theory.
Well, so goes Texas, so goes America. And, I wrote a book called Texas Hold the Nation. That's how important Texas is. And the left has clearly put a target on Texas because they realize they cannot control America unless they can control Texas. And what you see happening on our border is intentional. It is purposeful. The fact that we have an administration that unconstitutionally has implemented an open borders policy that is allowing hundreds of thousands of people to enter through Texas and across the United States of America legally, that's very disconcerting. And so I will tell you, that's the number one issue for Texans. That's the number one issue I hear as I travel around Texas, is securing that border. And I believe that without a doubt, people know that that is also a number one issue, a national security issue and risk for the United States of America if we don't secure that border. I think something that a lot of the seniors here in Texas are feeling the heat about are the property taxes. We have the 6th highest property taxes in the United States of America. And for whatever reason, with a Republican governor, lieutenant governor, speaker of the House, Republican majorities in the Texas State House and State Senate, we cannot get property tax reform done in this state. As a matter of fact, we just finished a 3rd special session where they kind of had a Marie Antoinette moment, let them eat cake, where they passed a piece of legislation that says we'll give people $175 of relief and property taxes. Well, guess what? There's so many people out there paying anywhere from $5,000 to 5 figures for their property taxes. And this is affecting seniors who are on a fixed income, and they cannot really adjust for these variable high rates of property taxes that we see happening. So that's a huge issue that we have to fix here as well. But I will tell you that without a doubt, the border and the fact that Texas is the number one state in the United States of America for human and sex trafficking. I live right outside Dallas, and down the road is Houston. Those are the top two cities in America for sex trafficking. Those are incredibly immoral issues that we are facing here in the state of Texas, and we got to rectify that.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable and hard to imagine how our president, Joe Biden, really is trying to do all he can to convince Americans that the border is closed and that the issue doesn't exist. And well, I guess I should go down to the border, I think is what he said just the other night. So it's really unbelievable how we're seeing these pushes by the Biden Justice Department to punish parents who speak at school board meetings. You mentioned earlier, they're calling them domestic terrorists. I mean, how do you see this issue playing out? What should we be fighting for, especially at the state level and the state legislatures, but in our school boards, and are parents doing the right thing? You know, we see parents walking out, they're pulling their children from school, they're doing more homeschooling. I'm encouraging AMAC members to get involved with your local school board. We want to explain to people what critical race theory is. Can you share with us, those listening, why you believe these teachings of critical race theory are damaging to our youth and how parents can respond?
Well, first of all, critical race theory is what I call cultural Marxism. It is looking at separating and dividing us not based upon socioeconomic status, but based upon race. And I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, in the old Fourth Ward neighborhood, the same neighborhood that produced Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And his dream was that his children would grow up in a country and in America where they would be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And what critical race theory, the 1619 Project, all of these things, this cultural Marxism does, is takes us back to the color of the skin being the delineating factor. And so the left comes out and says that they want to fight racism, but what they're doing is implementing more racism. You know, sitting here talking to you, you're not evil, you're not oppressing me, you're not an oppressor, and I am not a victim. And so the words that Condoleezza Rice just used recently on The View, I wholeheartedly agree with her. But yet what we see happening is a means to once again undermine our country, to divide us in order to separate and to take us over. And, you know, one of the things about Karl Marx, and I would ask the AMAC readers to read the Communist Manifesto, one of the planks there was state control of education. And look at what is happening when we have the government controlling education in the United States of America. What was once one of the great systems of education in the world is now one of the worst. And what are we doing? We're not teaching our kids, we're indoctrinating our kids. And the most important elected position in the United States of America is school board. And I am so proud to see Americans here in Texas and all across this great country standing up for their children, going to these school board meetings, running for school board, winning school board seats, because we've got to get this back under control. And I will tell you something, be on the lookout for what could happen in Virginia in that gubernatorial election, because Loudoun County and Fairfax County, those two very blue counties up in Northern Virginia, you have a lot of parents that are very angry and upset about what they see happening with the education of their children. And the Democrat candidate there for governor, Terry McAuliffe, on the debate stage, absolutely appalled people by saying that he doesn't think that parents have a right to make any decisions when it comes to educating their children. How did we get to that point?
Just unbelievable. Yeah, that really enraged me. I thought, I hope that right there you lost it. Well, let's hope the American people understand what that really means. Thank you for that. Colonel West, you have somehow continued to demonstrate strength, and you've done it all your life. You've done it in ways that I think other people might have been worn down. You are ready to get up each and every day and speak the truth, and then take blowback that comes from a judgmental society where well-grounded opinions are somehow twisted. We see that happen all the time, where false narratives really do endanger informed public discussion. So I have two questions for you. The first one, I want to ask you, how do you get your strength? And then I want to follow up that question with, can you tell us about the importance of speaking up, of questioning the growth of the federal government, and really making a stand on principle?
Well, I will tell you without a doubt, my strength comes from my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And one of my two of my favorite verses out of the Bible, Philippians 4:13, where it says, "I can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens me." And the amazing thing about that book in the Bible, Philippians, it was written by the Apostle Paul while he was chained in prison, getting ready to be beheaded. And for him to be able to write those incredible words, that should strengthen each and every one of us to realize that no matter what situations you're facing, you're more than a conqueror. The other verse that is so important to me is Isaiah 54:17, where it says, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn, for that is the heritage of those who love the Lord." And so I think that it is time for us to be bold and courageous, which is what God told Joshua in chapter 1, verses 5 through 9, to be strong and courageous, and that the Lord thy God should never leave you nor forsake you. So if you are rooted and grounded in your Judeo-Christian faith heritage, and notice I said faith heritage, not religion, that's a different thing. I think that you can go out and face any adversity, any situation, and you can stand like a rock because you're standing on a firm foundation and not shifting sand. So that's the most important thing for me, is my faith heritage. The second thing, you talked about being able to stand up and speak about the government and speak about this great constitutional republic. I think it's important for us to study and understand the foundation of the United States of America. You know, anytime I leave out of this house, I carry my Constitution and my Declaration of Independence in my breast pocket here over my heart, because on 31 July 1982, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I took that obligation freely without any purpose of evasion or mental reservation, so help me God. And I think that as veterans, and I know that we have a lot of veterans part of the Amac community, that oath has no statute of limitations. And you must continue to stand up and fight for what you know is right. Fight to defend this constitutional republic, stand up for our rule of law, because right now, as I said earlier, we're facing a constitutional crisis and it is firmly under assault. So those are the things that enable me, encourage me, and strengthen me, and embolden me to be able to go out and be a statesman and be a leader and not a politician. And what's the difference? Politicians are going to tell you what they think you want to hear, but a statesman and a leader is going to tell you what you need to hear, regardless of the consequences and ramifications. And most importantly, they're standing on truth.
Wow, that answer was very helpful. I think it's so inspirational, and so many Americans today, do agree with you. And for me personally, I couldn't agree with you more that it's each and every day that, you recognize that you're given an opportunity or you have a calling, pay attention to what it is, and don't let fear of the
Never,
unknown stop you. Try to step
never.
out in faith. That is just a wonderful message. Go ahead.
One of the things that I learned early on was that there are two most important days in your life. The first one is the day that you're born, and the second is the day that you find out why. And I often share with people, when I was a young lieutenant, 1985, 24 years of age, got the opportunity to go from West Berlin, liberty and freedom, through a very narrow defile called Checkpoint Charlie, over to East Berlin. And I saw what was going on in East Berlin. I saw what went on behind that curtain. And I never wanted to have that happen here in my own country. The despair, the despondency, the totalitarianism, the absolutism. And that's what I think we have to do. We have to understand and find out, what is our reason for existence? Kind of like it says in the book of Esther, for a time such as this. And so I would challenge all of the members of AMAC who will see this podcast. Ask yourself, what is the second most important day of your life? Everyone knows that first one, but a lot of people don't know the second.
That's a great point. Really good. We want to encourage that. And this really does lead right into my next question, because we do look at a world that's going through a whirlwind of cultural change. And we do see big tech that is shutting down speech, along with the Democratic Party. And we see the old party becoming a socialist party. We see the rising influence of China, the Biden administration that is weak on so many fronts, terrorism, that we're afraid of terrorism here at home, and the economy, our southern border that you spoke about. So this is a pointed question, but I think that you as an optimist can really give us a good answer. Are these errors, are these failures of leadership, are these attacks on our liberty, and our sovereignty, are they reversible? Can we get ahead of these events and again lead back uh, with a strong moral nation, a strong world leader? Can we again become, Ronald Reagan's beacon of hope, the city on the hill,
Yeah.
so to speak? What is your view?
Absolutely so. Winston Churchill had a famous quote. He said, "You can always count on Americans to do what is right after they have exhausted every other means." And I think that that's what we see happening. For whatever reason, just the same as when you have kids, you tell them, don't touch the hot stove. We touch the hot stove of progressivism, of socialism, of statism, Marxism. And now we see exactly who these people are. There is no equivocating about it. You can no longer say, well, they don't really mean what they're saying. They do mean what they're saying. And I believe that that's why you see an incredible resurgence of patriotism, an incredible resurgence of everyday, ordinary people that are doing extraordinary things. One of the things that I share with folks is that everyone has to find their Rosa Parks moment. Rosa Parks was just a simple, ordinary, everyday woman there in Montgomery, Alabama. But on one single day, she made the decision that started an incredible movement when she said, I'm not going to the back of the bus. And that's why I see so many Americans that are finding out that second most important day, and they're standing up and they're taking action. Just the mothers that are going to the school board meetings, the dads that are standing up and fighting for their children, especially their girls in some of these schools. That's what America is about. And I think that out of these dark days, we're going to come our brightest and our greatest moments. And I'm just so honored to be part of it.
Oh, well, we're thrilled to have you as a voice of reason and a voice of hope. I want to ask you, we're so thrilled now to hear that you've recovered so well from just having COVID. And we understand that impacts each and everybody differently. And here at Amac, we've always left it up. We don't weigh in heavily on directing people to get the vaccine or avoid the vaccine, but we do believe in individual freedom. We do believe that that is an important decision that each individual must make, and it's a decision between an individual and their doctor. I don't believe that the federal government should be stepping in and making these mandates. But here's my question. Why is it, do you think, that there's little or no talk in Washington about natural immunity? I know that there are many people who have had COVID. I've seen studies. It's hard to get the truth because so much information, I believe, is suppressed, unfortunately. So we're not seeing as much as we ought to be seeing. But my understanding, according to my doctor, is natural immunity exists. We know that it exists. And I also know that if a child had previously had the measles, let's say, typically your doctor won't vaccinate against measles if you've had the measles and recovered. So why is it that we're ignoring, in your opinion? And I'm sure can you weigh in on your thoughts on why there's a absolute urgency to mandate at the federal level the vaccine for so many people, including business owners with over 100 employees?
Well, there are two things. First and foremost, this was just a shifting of the narrative. This was about getting away from the debacle in Afghanistan. You remember, right in the middle of that, all of a sudden, Joe Biden decides to have a press conference, and he does not have the constitutional authority to mandate to Americans what has to be injected into their bodies. As a matter of fact, hundreds of thousands of people are illegally crossing the border. They're not being mandated to give the shot. But the thing is this is now about power control. That's what it's all about. And here in the state of Texas, we have about 29 million people in the state of Texas. We have reported a little over 4 million cases of COVID virus, Wuhan virus. And in Texas, sadly, there have been 69,000 Texans that have lost their lives. Now, 69,000 out of 4 million reported cases out of a state of 29 million. You can do the math. We're talking about a virus. We're not really talking about a disease. We're not talking about measles, polio, or even something like a chickenpox. We're talking about a virus, and we deal and we live with viruses every day. But this virus has a 99.98% recovery rate, and I'm living proof of it. I have not had a shot, don't intend to get a shot. I had a low-grade fever, some body aches, and what did my wife and I go and do? We got the monoclonal antibody infusion therapy, worked wonders. I did have some traces of pneumonia in my lungs. What did I do? I got the budesonide nebulizer treatment, but we're also on zinc. We have also gotten on an ivermectin regimen. We have also been taking D3, calcium, vitamin C, and things of this nature. But you have to follow the money in politics. And I think that that's the age-old adage. And when you look at what is going on, you will see that we have corporate oligarchs and we have this crony capitalism that is going on. And we have a government that is doing unconstitutional things by trying to force people and force them out of their jobs and making it a condition of employment, which is absolutely absurd to me, what we see happening. But again, I see people standing up and saying, we're not going to do it. We're not going to follow along with it. Because if you lose control of your body, what do you really have control over? So this issue of medical freedom is a huge issue in this election that is going to be coming up. But it's a huge issue every day because you have to be able to make the decisions for your own body. And I'll close on this thought. There are medical professionals like here in the state of Texas, the Texas Medical Board, Pharmacy Board, Nursing Board. They've got blood on their hands because anytime government bureaucrats are restricting and constraining people from being able to make the right decisions for themselves and for their bodies and holding back treatments and protocols and therapies that are proven to work, that's just wrong.
Yeah, it sure is. It's just, I was floored. I was blown away when I heard President Biden just say that this isn't about freedom.
Yeah.
Come on, this isn't about freedom. You got to go out there and get the darn shot. I mean, it just blew me away. I thought, but wait a minute, what if so many people have had COVID, have recovered? And it seems to me that you don't want to accept the fact that there could be greater protections with natural immunity. So let's let the truth come out. Let's follow the science. So I agree with you. Following the money is important, and I appreciate your candor in opening up and sharing that with us. And we are just so thrilled that you are better and back on your feet. And that is the most important thing. So I want to thank you. I know you have to run. I want to thank you so much, Congressman Colonel West, for your time, your vision, your inspiration, and thank you for your record of integrity and your willingness to speak up. I want to ask you, are there any parting thoughts that you'd like to leave with our listeners today?
Sure. If they want to follow our campaign endeavor here to be the next governor of the state of Texas, you can go to our website, west4texas.com, west4texas.com. And what a great honor to be with you and to continue service to Amac and what you're doing. And I always have loved the title, the Association of Mature American Citizens, because we need more mature American citizens that are logical, reasonable, and patriots.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much and good luck. And we will hope to see you again very soon. And I want to thank all of our AMAC members for tuning in today. If you haven't downloaded the AMAC News app, you can watch, you can listen to today's podcast, plus track breaking news right here. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share wherever you are on social media. Until next time, I'm Rebecca Weber. This is your podcast, Better for America. Thank you for being here. God bless you. Until next time, have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Better for America podcast. To learn more about AMAC and all it has to offer, visit us at www.amac.us.